On Saturday, April 25th, middle school students from Blessed Sacrament School of Burlington reached up to touch the edge of space. This is the story of how our community of makers came together with STEM educators to make that possible.
Just talking to them. 5, 1, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Release the strings. Release the kraken.
My name is TIffany Stalek, and I am the assistant principal, middle school math teacher, and STEM stream coordinator at Blessed Sacrament School.
I'm Victoria Sebastian, and I am the middle school science teacher here at Blessed Sacrament School in Burlington, North Carolina.
My name is Betsy Sioussat, and I was on the chase crew along with my 11-year-old son, Hootie.
I'm Danielle, and I'm in the 8th grade.
I'm Reagan, and I'm in kindergarten. I'm Lizzie, and I'm in 1st grade.
I'm Hootie, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Casey, and I'm in 3rd grade.
I'm Kate, and I'm in 4th grade.
I'm Yesenia, and I'm in 4th grade.
I'm Alex, and I'm in 4th grade.
And I'm Matthew, and I'm in 6th grade.
And what part did you guys play in this mission?
Chase crew.
I'm Todd Palmer. I'm the president of Palmer Generator, and I'm also a parent of 2 students at Blessed Sacrament School. And I provided the hydrogen for the balloons for the launch. I have my daughter is in 2nd grade with Miss Bilson, and my son Karsten is in 3rd grade with Mrs. Boston.
And what did they think of the balloon launch?
They absolutely loved it. They had a blast.
What did you think of the balloon launch?
I didn't know what to expect, but after seeing the launch and then tracking it on the big screen inside the mall, and I guess the thing that caught me was when they said the chase team was going to leave and go all the way to the other side of Rocky Mount near Greenville. I was like, wow, this is really amazing. And then to see the pictures from the balloon, that was just, it just blew me away. I don't think I knew what to expect, but I was just amazed at the whole thing.
I'm Jackson, and I'm in 4th grade.
I'm Raymond Kolozek, and I'm in 8th grade.
And what team were you guys on?
We were on Mission Control.
Mission Control. So tell me about Mission Control.
Mission Control, essentially, we tracked where the balloons and the chase crews were on a computer back at base or the mall, and projected that data up onto a screen for all of the people there to see. And we would also post reports and updates on Facebook, or if a balloon had landed, we would tell the chase crews where it was or what direction they should head in.
So this year, part of our stream program was to do a high altitude balloon launch. And thanks to Ben Harris and the Alamance Makers Guild, we were able to network with a group of professionals that were able to help us connect with the right people to make it happen. So Paul Lowell from NC Near Space and Ben worked with our teachers and our students at the school to teach us what a high altitude balloon launch is and how our students could make it happen.
Well, cool. I want to start off just real quick. Who can give me a good definition of gravity? What we're dealing with. What is gravity?
My name is Paul Lowell. I'm from Raleigh area, and I'm involved with a loose group of folks that are interested in high altitude ballooning. We're called NC Near Space.
And how did you get involved with our launch in Burlington?
I was contacted by the Alamance Makers Guild to see if any of us would be available to help out with an idea that they had for getting students involved in a STEM project, something a little bit out of the ordinary.
Well, and this was more than just one project, right? It was a semester-long event.
That's right. It involved all sorts of wonderful things, whether it's weather, technology, tracking using amateur radio and radio signals. There were students involved with using high-definition cameras, designing packages, learning engineering techniques, using the tools of the trade. It was a whole event.
Tell me about what the Chase crew does.
We loaded up in the van before the balloons were launched that Saturday and started heading east. And I was very, very lucky to have a fabulous friend named Jen in the car as my navigator. So she was able to track us as we went. We drove east and got constant communications from the crew back at Holly Hill Mall telling us where to go.
And where did you end up going?
We ended up in Tarboro, so halfway to the Outer Banks. And it was raining and it was dreary, but it was the most exciting 2.5-hour drive of my life.
And how many other kids or parents were with you?
One parent and, 4 kids in the car with us.
And where did you find your payload?
The only way I can describe it is a rural industrial area. There was definitely some building there. There happened to be people there working on that Saturday afternoon when we got there. And we were lucky enough that there was a trailer where someone lived at the entrance to it. So we stopped there, asked for permission to go on the property. And then the owner of the property came over and it got back in his truck and led us exactly to where the payload was.
All right, Eli. Okay. If you figure out what that is, Eli. Back at the listed Sacrament school. It's a school project.
I helped the kids design and prepare the payload and the parachute and the balloon for launch on the 25th.
So how much of the work did the students do?
Well, most of it. We spent a long time talking about materials to make the box, whether we should buy a box or try and make the box, and then weighing out all the different components and converting to grams, tying knots. That was a big thing. We all learned to tie knots, a bowline knot. So, but the students did all of the work, which, you know, as a teacher, is probably the most difficult thing to do, is not to just get in there and do it quickly.
What do you think of having done this project publicly at the Maker Faire?
It was very exciting. It was great to see a lot of other people in the community to be involved. It does a lot for Blessed Sacrament, for the school, for what they did, but it also did a lot for the community to see so many people come out in droves to see everything that was going on at the Maker Faire. My kids loved taking all the computer pieces apart. That was like their favorite thing.
You can thank the Alamance County Library System for that exhibit. So yeah, so community is important on these kind of things. Schools don't work in isolation. STEM is best when it's hands-on. What do you think about that?
It's got to be. Even since the balloon launch, there's been so many people that have talked to us about, gosh, maybe we'd like to look at getting our kids in to Blessed Sacrament just to have that kind of program. I know for me, everybody I talk to that's my age wish that we had that type of education when we were in school. It certainly would have made it a lot more fun, to say the least.
How did the students react to the project?
Well, when we introduced it in the fall, they weren't quite sure what exactly it was going to entail. We had shown them some video of last year's Burlington Mini Maker Faire videos of the launch, but we tried to include all of the students and the parents in the activities. So there was a lot of excitement buzzing around this year-long event, and all students had a piece of the puzzle. So whether it was lessons on weather, layers of the atmosphere, right down to engineering the payload, every student from preschool up to grade 8 was involved in the project. The teachers went to go speak with the elementary students about sending their little flat knights that they designed, little knights that they colored and put, "If lost, please return to." Blessed Sacrament School with their names on it, and they were all inside the payload, so every student would have a little knight that went to the edge of space. We had the middle school students on teams designing the payload, researching balloon launches, researching the equipment that was inside the balloon launch, the GPS trackers, the cameras, right down to registering devices, finding out how they work, to the actual physical making of the payloads. So everyone had a piece, including the parents. We designed crews that students and parents and community members could be part of. We had the chase crew, the launch crew, safety crew, communications crew, and of course mission control. So parents signed up, students were working on it in school and talking to their parents about it at home, and so it really generated a lot of excitement about this project.
It was almost the beauty of science being an international language, because there were two kids, they had two sons that were about the same age as the kids who were in our van, and they were just as in it and as excited, and they had never seen us or heard of it before 10 minutes prior to that. So it was really great, the kindness of strangers and just the joy of children learning and parents learning. I mean, when we found it, I'm surprised I put the car in park because I was so excited. I wanted to jump out and run at it with the kids just as much as they did.
How was it working with the teachers and students at Blessed Sacrament School?
Oh, what a blast. Those children, I tell you, day one, they understood what was going on and they asked some fantastic questions. The teachers were very enthusiastic and had some great questions as far as trying to get not only the physical requirements down for the launch, but also what could we teach the children? What are some ideas? How are we going to roll this into the entire STEM initiatives?
And it's kind of cool because the middle school students were primarily designing and building the equipment, but it was every student in the school involved in the project. What was that like?
Oh, that was great. That was one of the thoughts. Originally, some of the student ideas were to send up a large number of small payloads, whether that's ping pong balls or something like that. And of course that could be problematic if 170 ping pong balls started falling all over eastern North Carolina. One of the things that I thought of early on that would be low mass, high yield, would be to have the students make something kind of like the Flat Stanley book series. I've seen a lot of folks doing that, seen a lot of children involved in that. I have 4 children myself, so I've taken Flat Stanleys all over the countryside. So the thought of sending 170 Flat Stanleys up to the edge of space was seemed like a real inexpensive and viable and lightweight, which is important with this, a lightweight solution for getting everyone involved in this.
The space program, the Apollo missions, all of the things that we've seen in our lifetime, how does this compare for you to have been part of a space mission in Burlington, North Carolina?
Well, you know, I talk to the kids a lot about the space program because I grew up during the era of the space program where the entire world stopped and watched. And so I talked to them about it a lot. And honestly, I had my Houston, we have a problem variation of that the night I'd met with Paul and things weren't the way they should be. And so that's what I said to my 7th graders. I said, this is my Houston, I have a problem, and you are my engineers sitting around the table that, you know, have a very limited time to solve this problem. And I was so proud of those kids because they got, every single one of them got right on it, and we had several boxes, prototypes, and they were all working away and arguing with each other about the benefits of one design versus another. So I think that was my most magical moment with the 7th graders.
So being a part of this project, does that make you want to learn more about science and engineering, or maybe pursue that as a career one day?
Yes, learn more.
Does this mission make you guys more interested in science and engineering?
Yes.
I guess so. It was very interesting being part of mission control. I like to be around computers and doing a lot of the technical stuff, so it was a fun experience for me. But yeah, I guess it did give me a wider view of engineering and technology.
So mission control was kind of like command center, like at NASA when they're doing a launch. That lots of technology, laptops, projections of prediction sites of where the balloon was going to launch beforehand, projection of the GPS trackers and the chase cruise cars on the screen. So there was a lot of excitement happening.
I was just amazed at, to think that these are kids that are, kindergarten through 8th grade that all get together to work on a project and to put something together to see it go all the way nearly to outer space. It's just, it's the kind of thing we see on TV and in the movies, and then to actually see a group get together and actually do it, it was just amazing to me. I mean, I'm so glad that my kids are being educated there. It's just, bar none, the most comforting thing that I have in my life is that those kids of mine go to school there.
Okay, what was your favorite part?
Going in the woods.
So what was the weather like on the day that you...
Rainy, cloudy,
and
wet, stormy,
and
very cold, puddly, and cold. Yeah, cold.
Now I heard somebody lost their shoe. Was that person here?
Oh no.
So tell me about that.
So there was a ditch, and gained it, and my dad just stepped across it, and then Reagan's dad stepped across it. So then Caden ran and jumped over it. So I thought, hey, I can do that. So I just ran and jumped in. I almost made it, but my shoe got stuck in the ditch.
In the muddy.
And then he went to get his shoe back on, and he couldn't get it. So, but he eventually got it.
What was your thoughts about parent turnout and support?
I was hesitant at first that we would get enough parents involved in the project. We really needed them. We needed them to help with the chase. We definitely needed to help them with the safety perimeter and making sure that the balloon fill went safely and securely and that we didn't lose control. Again, we were planning this out weeks and weeks in advance and had no idea what the weather was going to be like that day. One of our biggest concerns was high winds. If the winds were above 10 knots, we would have had to cancel it because it just would become unsafe. Thankfully, we lucked out with that. Now, we ended up with some rain that day, which, of course, the cloud cover across North Carolina led to some rather boring pictures of the Earth because it was mostly just a whiteout from the clouds. But I'm so glad we had the parents involved with that. And honestly, it sounds like a lot of them got a great kick out of it as well.
They really did. They really did. So what did you think of Blessed Sacrament's mission control setup inside the Maker Faire?
That was great. We'd kind of pushed from the beginning to make sure that we have large displays, projectors, something like that, so that the crowd that would gather would see what was going on. It's a whole lot better than having a small monitor and people huddling around it. So I think that added a lot to it. And to have the students so involved in that. There were children with megaphones calling out altitudes and trying to keep the crowd up to speed on what was going on, and having the interactive displays that would show the chase cars the balloons, all of that was really wonderful. And one thing that we find is really useful is after the payloads are recovered, we can immediately from the field send pictures back and display them up on the big screen as well, and that really wraps up the whole day for people.
And what do you think about doing a school project like this publicly by launching at the Maker Faire?
I think it is amazing. I think that it is so, it's such a statement of the love of learning at Blessed Sacrament that the kids did this, the parents did this with such incredible enthusiasm. They will never forget it. I talked to some 8th graders yesterday who said by far their favorite experience of the year was working on the project, not necessarily even the Saturday of the launch. When you're talking about having kids learning and being that fired up about it, yes, I want us to do it again next year. If we do it again next year, I definitely want to be on the chase crew again.
Why did you want to launch at a Maker Faire?
Well, I mean, we were inspired by the Alamance Makers Guild to make and to do and to engineer and to inspire our students to think outside the box and to do a hands-on project that was truly learning by doing. And so what better place to launch at the Maker Faire that is full of makers of all types, including our students who truly were the makers of this project.
What about an environmental message with this mission?
Well, you know, at Blessed Sacrament, we really emphasize the stewardship of the earth. And so the kids were wondering why we were doing hydrogen instead of helium, which is what people expect. And, you know, and I explained helium is a limited resource, so we have to use it wisely, and there's lots of medical procedures that require helium. But even though hydrogen can be dangerous, you know, we talked about the Hindenburg and all of that, that we chose to use hydrogen because it was a better use of the resource.
And how important is STEM education to you as a parent as opposed to all the other education that there is?
Well, it's important for me, you know, being in the business that I'm in power generation, we're always looking for new ways to cut labor hours and build things better and make things more efficient. And we need problem solvers. I mean, for us, in my business, I need people that can come in and look at equipment and be able to make evaluations and look at things and come up with ways to do things differently, to make them better, to make them faster, to make them more efficient. You know, that's a huge part of my business and what I do on a daily basis. And it's comforting to think that there's going to be kids coming up out of school that are going to have those kind of tools available to them, because it's going to be important for my business as we grow.
If another school or other kids wanted to do a project like this, what would your advice for them be?
My advice would to first make sure before you do the launch that all the equipment's turned on. And when you're purchasing such equipment, make sure that you're purchasing something that's good, but at the same time at a reasonable price.
So I've been asking the teachers and some of the students if another school or community wanted to do a project like this, what their advice would be. So I'm going to ask you a variation on that question. If there are other balloon and high altitude enthusiasts out there, what's your advice to them for getting involved in their community and their schools?
Do it. Absolutely do it. It's a load of fun, and you're getting their future involved in what seems like a really strange hobby, unusual hobby. And remember, those hobbies are usually made up of other previous hobbies, whether that is ham radio, rocketry, meteorology, geocaching, all of the things that have kind of combined to create high-altitude ballooning. These children we need to get them away from video games and get them out in the countryside thinking about their planet, and what a wonderful way to do it.
What would your advice be to other schools or community groups that want to do a project like this in their community?
So reach out to people who know what they're doing, and so from that standpoint, people who like working with kids, and make it as inclusive for all of the kids in the school as possible, because I think this was definitely an environment where learning was very cool, and it was very, they wanted to be a part of it.
So what would your advice be to other teachers, schools, or community groups that want to do a big educational project like this?
Well, although I think it would be tempting to go out to the backyard and let the balloon go, the mission control part was so much fun. I think that's what the kids will remember most, the whole crowd cheering as we discovered Payload 1 and then Payload 2. And of course the kids who chased the payloads, they have adventures that they will never forget. I saw them that day, that evening, when they dropped off the payloads, and they were really pumped.
So what's your advice to other schools or other community groups that want to do a project like this with their students?
Well, don't be scared to try something outside of the box, because you'll be surprised at how many parents and community members and students there are that will help you through it. And there is such a wealth of resource in your community members and other people who believe in STEM education or STREAM education that you're not alone. And if you don't try it, you'll never know if it's going to work out. And it truly was one of those moments where the kids will probably never forget the launch, the chase crew, the time they've spent building and trying and making prototypes. The hands-on learning is something that just can't be replicated, you know, in a traditional setting. So it's an experience worthwhile.
So for the teachers and educators at Blessed Sacrament, I've been asking them what their advice would be to other schools that want to do a project like this. What would your advice be to business owners and communities for getting involved with their local schools to help make these kind of projects happen?
Well, I think one of the things they've got to do is you've got to be able to invest back in your community. And we have a lot of really good businesses here in Alamance County, and new ones coming in all the time. And a lot of these new companies are bringing people in from different parts of the country and different parts of the world. And I think it's important that those people that come to work, I mean, it's value added that there's a school and a program available to other people that they could send their children here. So I think those businesses getting involved, it provides not only their workers with an opportunity with a different place to go to school that does these type of projects, but it also provides the businesses that they have a lot of tools available to them that maybe we don't know about, that they can bring in and show us, hey, this is what we do at our business, you know, to kind of marry in some additional different types of projects that could be done with STEM through these new businesses that are coming in here to Alamance County.
It is important to trust in the process and let your students explore and fail and keep trying, and support them through that. And as an adult and as a teacher, we want to kind of guide them in the right way to get things done or to build something, but truly to let them explore the engineering process and to have fun with the process, and to give them time to collaborate together and work together is something that is a life lesson that they'll use forever. And this was a perfect school lesson that will prepare them for the real world.
So do you think it was a good idea to do this publicly at the Maker Faire, not only a balloon launch with students, but also with 4,600 people at the fair?
Oh, that was a perfect environment for it, especially considering that it was a Burlington event. It was a local event involving local children, and not only do you get the crossover from people attending the Maker Faire, seeing what's going on with the school, but you also get people from the school coming out and seeing all the other wonderful things that the makers are doing across the state, all gathered there in one location. That was a perfect location for it.
And did you get to see any of the Maker Faire yourself?
This year I did. This is, I believe, my 3rd year at the Maker Faire, and in previous years I've been so busy chatting away at the table that I haven't had a chance to see anything at all. So I forced myself to take 10 minutes and hike up and down the mall space and look at all of the other amazing things. It was wonderful.
So what was your favorite exhibit other than Mission Control?
Well, I of course had to get photos in the TARDIS.
We were absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of excitement that was happening the day of the event. The amount of people that turned out to the event, to the Maker Faire, to visit Mission Control, talking to the kids, talking to the parents, finding out, what this project was all about, and the parents themselves truly getting involved, and just the excitement around that, and helping the kids and staying with the kids, getting the chase crew was amazing. They were just over the moon excited to be on the hunting down this payload to bring back to the rest of the school. The kids in Mission Control waiting in the backgrounds were just as excited. So we were really truly overwhelmed with how much excitement it produced. So community members that were a huge help in all of this, right? So identifying who in your community can help you make something like this happen, because it certainly was not done by just myself or Victoria or our principal. It was certainly a community effort. We had Palmer Generator donate the hydrogen. We had Ben Harris help us through the process from the Alamance Makers Guild. We had Paul Lowell from NC Nearspace, who was a huge resource, took free time of his own, along with Ben, to come out to the school and talk to the students about the process, talk to them about balloon launches, about the maker movement, what it was all about. So they were huge resources for us. The day of the event, we had Chris Tate from the Alamance Amateur Ham Radio Club come out and help us. I think he might have left his booth behind and came over to ours and stayed the course with us, because we certainly did need him for sure. The parents that were on the chase crew. Of course, we thank Holly Hill Mall for letting us use their space for doing the launch and for allowing our community to have a Burlington Mini Maker Faire, which is something really unique and unusual, and we're very fortunate to have. We had parents who donated GPS trackers, funds towards it. So those parents who helped us we could never do it without them. So we thank them as well. Very fortunate.
We're part of BSS Stream.
I'm part of BSS Stream.
The Alamance Makers Guild is a group of talented and creative makers located in Alamance County, North Carolina, and is sponsored in part by Harris Educational, makers of reinventing science kits like Reinventing Edison Build Your Own Light Bulb.